has work been kicking my behind, but the people at work have been, ooh, something to contend with. I was, for example, I was just sitting at work doing, there's the kind of makeup you do to get out of the house. Like you put on your base and your primer and your sunscreen and all of that. Maybe a little butter in the center of the face. But when I'm all dressed and approved by wardrobe and I settle down, I like to do a little something to look even more alluring. So, I was just sitting there putting on makeup, and one of one of my colleagues said from quite a distance so other people could hear it, shading me, right? Negging me. This is the key, right? This person has been a problem for years. But oh, I know a product that will cure your dark circles, right? And then he crept up on me and like stood over me, right? In the COVID times, you're not supposed to get that close to people unless, cameras are rolling. But he likes attention and he likes to violate personal space. So without without looking up and without missing a beat, I was like, well, it's not a problem that needs to be cured. It's simply an aesthetic we have in the West to brighten our under eyes, especially if we're going to be photographed or filmed. And I said, but if you're offering your credit card for cosmetics that I might like, I'll just send you an Amazon wish list. And that certainly did solve the problem in the moment. So I recommend that. When people are trying to neg you, always pivot to, if they're really trying to help, something that they can actually do that they're probably not willing to do. Yeah, but, I think one issue with men in the workplace is they're still men, right? So they're still going to look you over and, try to perpetrate. But if they can't succeed at it, right? If you're not giving them play or you're making it clear you're not interested, they're still going to try all of their, internet pickup artist tactics. And they're trying to, they're going to try to get sexual with you and still fly under the radar. It doesn't matter. Me Too, Time's Up, none of it, Weinstein on trial, none of it means a gosh darn thing, because you still have, I think incel is exactly the right term, because they're involuntarily celibate. They don't like it. They resent women for not, women or whomever they're targeting for their sexual mayhem. Yes, Cooper, I'm telling the truth. They are fanatical about trying to, there's some things that happened that didn't involve me this week. Grown men with partners trying to body shame women who are thick, trying to body shame women who are not thick. They can be the most teardrop shape ogres, goblins, and ghouls. Halloween is coming, and they still think that they're in a position to critique women and women's bodies. It doesn't matter if you're 21 or 81. They out here causing mayhem. Authorities had to get involved. That's all I'll say. But, the makeup game doesn't stop. Cooper, let me tell you how far this character went. And I didn't want to cause a stir over a nobody, because he's not any higher in rank than I am. He would whisper in my ear and put his lips on my ear. Now imagine if a grown man talked into your ear while cameras are rolling or you have to be quiet, and put his filthy lips on your ear. What would you do? What wouldn't you do, right? But that's the disrespect, because they don't expect women to rear back and sock him in the nose. This person also, I'll sit in my, set chair looking at my phone or whatever I'm doing. He would walk up to me and then stick his knees between my knees while I'm sitting and force my legs apart. Cooper, what would you do if somebody did that to you, right? Let's not talk about all the like vile, weird things this dude would say. And also a person of color. And I think, Cooper, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but there's some Latinx or Latino city council members that got in trouble this week for being anti-black, right? Referring to council member Mike Bonan's adopted very toddler-aged child as a monkey and saying that the kid was out of control simply because he's black. You know, Biden had to step in and, you know, encourage that woman to give up her seat. But her friends who were, you know, talking smack with her, I think haven't resigned yet, right? So this person, you know, similarly, as a person from an Afro-Latin country, had for years has had so many derogatory things to say about people of Mexican descent. Filthy Mexicans, dirty Mexicans. And it was astonishing to me because I've never heard in New York, I feel like different Latino communities don't hate and resent each other. They don't hate and resent, you know, to my knowledge, don't necessarily, they might be colorist, but the outright hate for Latins of indigenous descent hasn't been so, you know, the same council, I think she was the council president, was referring to indigenous Mexicans as ugly, and she didn't know how they got to America and all this stuff because she has a more European influenced phenotype. Now, American racism sees people of, you know, I guess the Pan-Latin experience as one. You know, I also am naive enough to think that, you know, when people who are Latin see each other on set, they might be happy that they're not the only one. Or if I see Asian people working on set, that they might be happy to see that they're not the only one. And I have had my eyes open to the fact that that's not the case at all. And, you know, somehow on TikTok and in general academic discourse that Cooper knows all about, there's a sense that there's some kind of solidarity among people of color, solidarity among different communities of people of color. But I think I've just been dreaming because, you know, the same problem person, so eager to be abusive to women, and I'm not the only one whose personal space he has stayed invading. So much vitriol for other people of Latin descent who were so kind to him. They made him ceviche special on set, you know, and he talks to them in Spanish and stuff like that, but behind their backs, unprovoked, for no reason, he talking crazy about people who aren't from his country. You know, I can recall, you know, there being some pretty deep, sorry, I'm putting this Makeup Revolution London liquid powder pore blurring makeup serum on. It's so liquidy and clear, I never know if it's actually doing anything, but this is what it looks like in the applicator. You know, I'm gonna keep trying. Maybe it's doing something. I'm really here just to reconnect. It's been so long because, you know, I was tired. Sometimes we work 6 day weeks, right? And on top of being tired and like stressed out and you have to be here and be there and all of that, then you have these, you know, idiots on set either feeling jealous or competitive with you and, you know, trying to ruin your day. And, you know, I don't discount the idea that, you know, maybe they're just not happy in general that you have your job, right? That maybe they have a friend that they would rather has your job. I don't know, but, you know, the quest, and I said this out loud when he was, you know, similarly trying to humiliate me in public, you know, saying whatever BS. I was like, you know, I guess negative attention is as good as any old attention, right? Like you're going to keep acting out because it's not even like I'm ignoring you. You're irrelevant. Like you're like a cable on the ground. You're a discarded COVID mask, whatever. But it's not even that conscious or hostile. It just, and I think that's the thing that's frustrating for men who maybe desire you more than you desire them. You don't even see them. You certainly don't see them like that. And that is the theme that remains when it comes to, women or women identifying people in the workplace. People just don't want to let it go. They don't want to take no for an answer. But I had faith that toxic masculinity was going to toxic masculinity. And in fact, over a certain timeline, he was encouraged to leave. That is true, Cooper. They are jerks, and they are, but I think the thing is that they're two-faced, right? Like he was so manipulative and lovey-dovey that, he made people, his disdain for Black people was as extreme as his disdain for Latinos that weren't from his home country. That people of African descent are beneath him. That he doesn't, he was on the Trump train. He doesn't believe in welfare, but unemployment is different because he earned it. This is someone who I believe lives with his mother, certainly drives his mother's car. Anyway, true. But this is the thing, right? The quest to be white adjacent is an ongoing one, whether that's from Black people who want to coon like your friend Herschel Walker, or, Latin people like that city council president in LA, on mic. I believe the recordings happened in the council chambers. I'd have to check because I've been so busy. But, it's just insane. And the arrogance to think that no one is checking on them, no one is checking for them. It's just absurd, right? And I'm sure that woman and this man, that they all feel like they were wronged and they're the victims, but that's hardly the case. In any case, we have this Anastasia of Beverly Hills Luminous foundation. I am curious, is it comparable to the e.l.f. Halo Glow liquid filter? Is it something that if I put it on my face, it's going to be overwhelmingly shiny? Or is it something that you then can build powder over, or put, I've seen people put MAC Studio Radiance Face and Body sheer foundation over their contour and highlighting and all of that. But, really I'm just here to give you my perspective on all the many things that have been happening in the last week or so. Cooper, you'll be excited. I do have my Kids' Choice Award slime hoodie on from years back, right? I got my merch working because it's actually cold today as the drops fall from the sky. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, shh, don't tell anybody, but the tea at work was piping hot. It's not about anybody at work, but I tell you, everybody is not only worth acknowledging, but making people feel seen and respected, right? I got a parking spot I shouldn't have gotten. People look out for you and your belongings. Very key. But as we know, Cooper, our friend Harvey Weinstein is on trial in Los Angeles, right? And it's astonishing because many different names have been mentioned in the context of Me Too, right? In the context of all the accusations and people who've lost roles or franchises or different things because of, really, it's not just that, you know, men or people, women, are interested in pursuing romantic or sexual things with other people. It's when you use your power to coerce people, right? It's the coercive control that is the problem, right? So how is it that other names have fallen out of our mouths, right? At a certain point, Brett Ratner, whoever that dude is that produced that film Bright, all these different men, you can't really recall their names quite as easily as you can Harvey Weinstein, right? He certainly wasn't the only one up to things. It's Hollywood after all. People talk about this blonde film on Netflix with Anna de Armas. Cooper, did you watch it? I say it has a lot of gratuitous sexuality. No, not my buddy. I only worked at Miramax briefly. But just getting this Luminous Anastasia, how do you pronounce it, Cooper? Anastasia of Beverly Hills Luminous Foundation into our dish, our favorite marbleized dish from Daiso. Let's try to do one pump. Let's see if it's gonna come out. Oh, we're connecting. Oh, I think that's a little, dare I say it, Cooper? It's a little you know what I'm trying to say. Some clear liquid that came out before the real thing. In any case, only Cooper will understand that joke. But here's the thing. Here's the tea. That here we have Weinstein, who somewhat single-handedly has stepped in front of this whole issue and become synonymous with it, right? This is someone who's allegedly employing like Mossad-level operatives to investigate his accusers and kind of keep them under control. There have been other suggestions about the fate of people who have tried to, you know, get in perpetrators and victims. I'll put it like that. And certainly his name was involved in that. But now, such an interesting pivot where, you know, he's kind of getting all the court and all the consequences coast to coast. But, and this is where it's very interesting, right? He almost singularly is the only name and the only person being held to account. And he's a very big wig. Still, I'm sure his earnings are very much secured, right? If not in his own name, then that of his brother, his shareholders, you know, even if he did step down, right? Money is a different issue. And I've heard that, you know, the friends of directors that have gotten in trouble, that they still are able to earn off the franchises that they participated in, whether that's Wonder Woman or, you know, any number of different series that lived at, you know, his various companies. But this is the point. Why would a man of his stature suddenly just drop his arms, right? I'm not saying he doesn't have lawyers. I'm not saying he's not mounting a defense, but on a certain level, it feels like he has acquiesced to this and he's kind of taking the heat. And I wonder if among his peers, he has kind of bravely decided to be the fall guy, right? Is that a decision that gets made for you, or is that a decision that you make? And this is where I feel like it gets back to this issue of ego, right? Here's this powerful man who's done all these things allegedly to these beautiful women and perhaps men too. But, you know, has kind of basically gotten away with it. And his body of work, the high art achievements and the productions and all of this, this foundation is looking very beautiful. It's looking luminous without being crazy shiny. Do we need another layer? Let's go for it. That perhaps he is, am I using this expression right, Cooper? Aunt Sally, red herring? He's kind of throwing himself in front of this bus or train called Me Too and taking the heat name getting dragged through the mud, but in the same way, he's protecting the other people who are not household names from the heat, right? Older guy, kind of, he's done it all. I didn't realize he had so many, at least 2 marriages and several children, and some of the children are grown women, right? That he, within his circle, is kind of taking the heat. And it's very interesting to me because it reminds me of Donald Trump in the sense, if you're from New York and you remember this, I think it was a tabloid cover, either the Daily News or the New York Post or both, when Donald Trump cheated on his late wife Ivana with Marla Maples. The cover headline was something like, "The best sex I've ever had," quoting her talking about him. Now, I've heard a lot of things about Donald Trump and his super happy adult fun time doings, whether that's with Stormy Daniels or various women, one of whom is, I think, E. Jean Carroll, who had that advice column in Elle magazine for years. She's finally dragging this MF into court for depositions because of sexual assault, SA, that may have happened at one of the fine department stores in New York. I want to say, was it Bonwit Teller? Was it Barney's? Someplace like that. Neiman Marcus doesn't really, I don't think there's a Neiman Marcus in New York, but some store that might not exist anymore, but in a dressing room, I think, allegedly. Nobody ever cites this man's prowess, not the this, not the this, not the stamina, not the, oh my God. It seems like getting with the dude is more like social climbing or hustle, right? And the way to get to men's pockets are often their ego, right? So a man that would stand for his adultery to be cataloged on the cover of tabloid newspapers in a big city, on a certain level, it had to make someone who's kind of jive in bed flattered that anyone would even say that publicly or privately, right? Just like, shall we say, dancers might say in an adult gentleman's club, like, "Ooh, you're so handsome, you're so rich, you're so sexy, you're so this," right? It's part of the sale, right? So if flattery or another notch on his belt was the point for Weinstein, I mean, bear with me, this is just a theory. Maybe the point is that being prosecuted for this is kind of makes him pop his collar because he's like, "Oh, I'm such a lad, I'm such a ladies man, I'm such a whatever," and he's also kind of taking the heat for, you know, his friends and peers, whether they're producers, directors, or whatever. Scapegoat, exactly, but kind of a voluntary scapegoat. But listen to this, Cooper. Sources who know say that just like Jeffrey Epstein, the late Jeffrey Epstein, who was certainly trying to get down with young, naive, desperate women from desperate circumstances, either in Florida or from Eastern Europe or whatever. And they say that allegedly Trump and his late wife had a hand in that kind of activity too, with the pageants and the modeling and the blah, blah, blah. Allegedly. That the theme between Epstein and Weinstein, forgive me, is that there was some, when it comes to the downstairs, there was some unusual anatomy, right? If you look at both cases closely, this foundation is actually looking lovely. I don't look so ugly anymore. A lot of makeup artists complain about this freckle, or I don't know what it is, blemish, age spot in my inner eye, but you know, I'm used to it. I'd rather have one and at least it's not three-dimensional. But the odd anatomy for Jeffrey Epstein was apparently something on the order of an egg. If you can imagine, if your joint looked like an egg, right? Here's my palm. An egg. What? Weird, disgusting, run away, right? No disrespect, but that this person, and I was standing in the middle of the street with my mouth open, suggested that when it comes to Harvey Weinstein, that the, shall we say, circus-like curiosity is one where there have been rumors about other celebrities like Jamie Lee Curtis and allegedly Lady Gaga, that Harvey Weinstein as well was perhaps in a position, and his parents may have decided, given his anatomy, are you getting what I'm saying? That given his anatomy, assigning him a gender. And if that's actually the case, then to me, it puts the whole, you know, he's got to do his business and willing participants. He's got to leverage job opportunities or careers. I'm not going to say he didn't help some of these people's careers. Some people ran after it and milked him like a prize Holstein and got what they wanted. Oscar level, men and women, from what I hear. That it puts it in a different light for him to, you know, pursue all of these, you know, kind of reluctant or unwanted or transactional adult happy fun time relationships. You know, the plants weren't safe. Apparently the man was, you know, at Sundance or wherever, you know, doing his pleasurable business onto the potted plants. That's not very nice. But again, if it's not like you're good looking, if having money and power isn't enough to get you, it's not just access to the, you know, good looking, successful, or struggling people that you desire, but what you want, and this is the part about going to actors, you want a certain kind of reaction. You want them to act like they want you, even for a moment. Take that phone call. Keep taking those phone calls for years. Be grateful. But if you were someone who was a little bit allegedly odd down there, then that puts a different spin on, you know, it's like the Pokemon game. Gotta catch them all, right? You gotta do it with all these different people. Beautiful wife, right? I think she designs those Marchesa dresses, right? I don't know what the first wife looked like, but being a family man, not enough, never enough. But if you had something unusual going on downstairs, right? Then it puts a different spin on being desperate to make people see it, make people touch it, make people do things with it. My perspective. But when I heard that, I'm still digesting it. I'm like, wow, imagine that was true. Imagine maybe, you know, people in your own family, whether they're your wives, children, whatever, maybe they have a little bit of understanding, like, oh, he kind of wasn't given a gift, and maybe this is his way of, you know, either trying to make other people pay for that fact, or, you know, kind of shoring up his own ego and trying to create circumstances in which he is, if not desired, then he's getting those notches one way or the other, right? Just like that kind of racist, you know, creep at my job, at least for a while. He ain't there no more. The gods have smiled. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, people have all kinds of motivations for being, quote, ladies' men or leches or molesters or whatever. But having some controversy about your manhood, whether that's manhood up here, manhood here in your heart, manhood physically in your pants, that puts a very interesting and kind of noirish film spin on it. My perspective. So in any case, this Luminous foundation from Anastasia, of Beverly Hills. I don't dislike it. I have a blemish here. Is it from the mask or is it from getting my makeup done this week? Someone on set put some Jeffree Star Cosmetics makeup on my face. And, you know, I've heard different black actresses complain over the years that whatever makeup artists on set used on them made their faces break out. So I was like, is it the mask or is it some kind of reaction to this makeup? Is the makeup good? The packaging is cool, but is it expired? I don't know, but you know, it definitely reminded me of when I've stood in for actresses and they were, you know, kind of arguing with the makeup team or the hair team, and you know, these conflicts definitely go on, and you hear things because they tell you and they want you to believe what they say, right? Not what you hear on, you know, TikTok or YouTube, but you want to believe like, oh, someone's really cluing me in on insider knowledge, right? When it comes to, you know, whether it's egg or what is the term, hermaphrodite, or you know, who's the guilty party in the Amber Heard Johnny Depp controversy. One person was saying that Amber Heard was like 20 when she got with him, but they were only together like a year and a half some years back, and she's like 38. I couldn't figure out the math. In any case, apparently there's text messages between Johnny Depp and Marilyn Manson that are not charming. But that's for another day. Let's see. Back to the makeup. So, we should put on some sort of contour and concealer. Right, Cooper? Are you still hanging in with me? How's everything where you are? I'm sorry I've been MIA. It's been a trial of life. I'll tell you that much. You know, people trying to test my patience out in these streets. And, you know, sometimes it's all we can do to like kind of get rest and kind of stay sane and stay in character. There've been some, you know, incidents at work. So I have a couple of these NYX Professional Wonder Sticks. They're highlight and contour sticks. I have one that's medium tan, and I finally got one that's deep. I don't know if this is quite the highlight color that I want, but maybe I'll just try it for the sake of trying it, right? The contour shade is hopefully a cool one. Hi, Cooper. What are you doing on this fine, what is it, Saturday? Oh, yeah? Well, that's good. Thank you for joining my live. Contour. Oh, I ate naughty things this week. You know, yes, there's kombucha. Yes, there's salad. But they got donuts from Danny Trejo's donut shop. You know, they got all kinds of like fried Chinese food, and somehow my brain short-circuited as soon as I heard Chinese food, and I just couldn't think straight. I was just, you know, a victim of the game. I couldn't, you know, my whole mental thought process is like, oh, I can eat, you know, things that aren't fried or whatever, and it just all went out the window. Like, it wasn't good. And, you know, my thought was like, oh, okay, let me do a little makeup look and then go sweat it off in the gym. You know, it's so funny, Cooper, that I don't really think of myself as an actor. I think of it as a job. But, you know, I also work on infectious disease here in Los Angeles. I'm actually working with like UCLA and a nonprofit, and our funding is coming from the manufacturers of HIV prevention drugs. And so I was doing like graphic design and copywriting for that this week while I was at work. And it's so funny because people on set even think of me as quote, just an actor. And I don't think of myself that way. I think of myself as like, this is my side job. So it's very, oh, I don't know, Coops. I don't know. I'm hearing bad things. I'm hearing bad things about whatever this next, just blending our contour upward. And it does seem like a nice, cool shade. I'm hearing bad things about whatever this, what do you call it? Global Panini variant that's kind of overrunning Austria right now, that Shanghai is just shut down, and that it has a higher rate of hospitalization than any of the other strains. So, another thing about kind of incel culture or involuntary celibate culture is that, these dudes are on internet heavy, whether it's Reddit or Twitter or just Facebook. And, some of them are members of SAG-AFTRA, and they're always carrying on about, oh, can we finally drop these, global Panini restrictions and tests and all this? And it's like, I'm like, are you dumb? Like, people are still testing positive and having to stay home from work, and quiet as it's kept, right, Cooper? This whole issue of long COVID, like people at 28 who've been infected with this thing one or more times are highly susceptible to cardiovascular, shall we say, events, and there's people trying to say like, oh, it's the vaccines. It's like, yeah, but the vaccines are helping people survive it. But, long COVID is a reality. Like, some people on TikTok are trying to say that the whole point is that 1/3 of the population is going to be permanently disabled, like on disability disabled. And I can't say what's true. All I know is from a beauty and makeup perspective, the people that I've seen get this thing, ever variant, multiple times, their skin looks like an old newspaper that's been left out in the desert, and there's something going on under the skin that, even people who are like 30, 40, 50 years old, it looks like skin eruptions, like cystic acne, that kind of texture, like crazy, like receding gums. Am I imagining this? Was it like that before? I feel like it wasn't like that before. In my job, I have to like look at people a lot. I have to like stand there and look at them and, interact with them under very bright light. So when things change in a good way, in a bad way, one of my colleagues is really doing very well at like eating salads and eating keto and all of that. And, he took his cop shirt off this week, and everyone was like delighted, like, oh, like, so even within the constraints of what's going on in the world, we can make health-oriented choices, right? Is this the time to travel? Is this the time to go out into the world? Is this the time to hang out or spend more time on, public transportation than we might otherwise? Unclear. So we put this contour on. I don't know if it improved things. It seems to have gotten a little bit muddier on this side than on this side. But, let's keep going. So if this is contour, what's our highlighter? Our goal, after all, is just to test out. Well, I mean, that would imply a couple of things, Cooper. Travel and public places and going out to public restaurants. I don't know. Do people do that now? Is that the move to be making now? I don't know. It's a nice thought. I certainly do miss, what was it called? Big Wong down on Mott Street. Here's the highlighter end of the Wonder Stick in the shade Deep, WSR07, and it looks quite gold. I don't know, but let's try it. We don't have any concealer on, but if we look into our hand mirror, run it down the bridge of the nose, ooh, and then on the nose tip, they say make a exclamation point. Maybe here in the Cupid's bow, on the chin, brow bone, and top of the cheekbones, right? Now, people say use your beauty sponge to blend. I feel like beauty sponge blending really is taking product off. So if we take our Jeffrey Epstein inspired egg, I know, it's time to use a new beauty sponge because this one's falling apart. And then just tap out this highlighter in the highlight places on the nose, so it's not screaming at the top of its lungs. It's just hopefully married into the beautiful illuminating foundation. You know, it's a dangerous game to wear a lot of illuminating foundation for acting work, right? Even though it's modern, pretty modern storytelling, it's too much shine and too much glamour. You kind of have to restrict it to the date night scenes and the, you know, kind of just looking at our contour and wanting to, you know, blend it, sharpen it up, however you call it. Just not have it wander as much all over the face, but just have the gesture of it there. Maybe the problem is we haven't powdered yet. We do have some exciting new powders, Cooper. I know you're excited to hear about that. But yeah, you know, my sense is that infections are rising, and that's not necessarily giving the green light to leisure or unnecessary travel or going out to eat, right? Like on many productions, well, yeah, Shanghai is in lockdown. I think Austria is mandatory, what do they say? Jabs. But this new strain, I think, is evading whatever the jabs are supposed to do, or, you know, I'm not sure. But, you know, just like with anything, like flu season is back. Cooper, I don't know if you take the flu shot. Apparently there's new strains of the Global Panini. This is the Makeup Revolution Pressed Powder Infinite. Translucent pressed powder with niacinamide. I've never used this before. No, they're not doing that, but, you know, do you want to have reduced lung capacity for the rest of your life? Do you want to go on Social Security disability because you're not able to, you're so fatigued from, you know, whatever, just using this Makeup Revolution times Friends television series, lobster on the end of this cute little eyeshadow brush to snap the tape, the safety tape that will keep stray fingers out of your product. You know, I think that people kind of have understood the Global Panini as being some kind of like flu-like respiratory disease, when that really is kind of the facade of it. I think that the longer term impact is on it's neurological. I think that there is, you know, Panini related dementia. What nice packaging this is. It's sort of rose gold and feels very nice in the hand. It makes me think of some higher end products like Danessa Myricks or Patrick Ta. Did I lose something? I heard something fall. Oh, this little condom slipped out of the package. Remember, what is it? Romper Room Cooper? I think that was a thing where they would hold up the little mirror and say, I see Jack and Cooper and Todd and Mary. And anyway, I never keep these things in the products, but it's nice to see that it's there when you decant it for the first time. So what is the proper thing? I did order some velour puffs from our friends overseas, but I have not received them yet. And I think I might have a couple laying around here. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know if now is the time for leisure travel or even, you know, leaving the house or protected circumstances to eat, right? Like we certainly have people who serve food to us at work who are, you know, tested. They're part of our testing cadence. And I think that on certain production campuses, like your friend Tyler Perry in Atlanta, they sequestered the entire production team, including the chefs and all of that, so that there is no kind of viral contamination coming from outside of campus. At least that was the idea. I don't know if that is an ongoing thing. I literally don't know. But I am excited. I'm seeing promos for, what is it called? Black Panther something. I don't recall what the name of this sequel is, but yeah, so this is what contour and highlighter are looking like on the face. We haven't put on, you know, sort of brightening concealer under the eye, and maybe as an FU to that guy that was trying to tell me that he had the answers to under eye darkness. What I did tell him was that, you know, skin is thinner under the eye. It's not an illness or disease. It's just it's a convention in the West to have a bright under eye. That's all. Not sick, not in need of fillers or surgery. But what's ironic is that this guy, and this actually has a really good mirror in it. So just trying to keep powder the center of the face, under the eye. It's a white powder, right? And it is translucent pressed powder with niacinamide. It is this white powder. It's a universal pressed powder, right? So it's that lie. It doesn't, on my complexion, look white or chalky. But again, this is the first time I'm using it. I'm trying not to completely cancel out my highlighter, but you know, this is lending brightness without being a creasy kind of cream. Or that looks great. Cooper, did you see that? Oh my God, this worked fantastic. Now let me not go too far because I like the way it looks. Do I need to prime my lids to get on this eyeshadow? I'm very excited. Look how good this looks. I was actually carrying this powder around in my purse. I have this Tumi purse that is like my daily kind of set purse. I'll either carry it on camera or not, but it's ripping at the seams, but I was carrying it around. I finally took it out because I was too scared to put it on my face in case I'd look. Hey, Cooper, do you know any like browner Jamaicans that put makeup on that isn't their skin color? I know quite a few of them in New York. I didn't want to look like that, like somebody who was wearing, you know, makeup that's too fair for their complexion, but I'm actually really happy with how this married together and makes me look, you know, bright enough without looking. I see these people on TikTok making these like reverse raccoon bright circles around their eyes that I don't think look great. This is just a velour puff that I got at Daiso, 3 in a pack, and it comes with a little pink thing, but I did get the triangle one, so hopefully they're gonna arrive in the mail. But yeah, just this to me would be a basic face to be law enforcement, right? Cooper, let's talk about Rookie Feds, right? I don't know if you've been watching TV or if you watch like any of those like Chicago police shows or whatever, but you know, I was pleasantly surprised. I was actually on my exercise bike watching this new show that has Niecy Nash in it. And the writing of the Black family, the way that Niecy Nash's character interacts with Frankie Faison, who plays her father, kind of older, either divorcee or widow, dating and having like a Black book club, and Niecy's kind of eyeballing his love interest's daughter, who is a stud, to my eyes, a stud or dom lesbian. Fire. Like, I felt it, I believed it, it was fun, it was sexy, and you know, you don't have a lot of time when you're doing hour-long drama with commercial breaks, so I was thrilled that it got the story across and the actors conveyed the story in such a like good way. And I have to do, I guess, a TikTok about it, how much I enjoyed it, because it was really good. I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but definitely worth viewing. That was episode 3, and I thought it was fantastic. Miss Jean, did you watch it? Oh my God, Cooper. People on Facebook are complaining that Niecy's showing too much cleavage. It's like, have you watched her career? This is her, you know, this is her body. This is her, you know, this is her. What should she wear? A turtleneck? Oh, I believe you. I believe you. She's very blessed. But yeah, we got this palette. I don't have any other makeup from PUR, I don't think. Maybe I have a powder somewhere that I haven't used. Maybe. Perhaps. PUR. If I have it, then I definitely haven't used it yet. But this is a makeup artist called Nabela Noor, and the quote on the back of the palette is, "I hope this collection helps you treat every day like a special occasion and empowers you to take time for you." And the caption on the back reads, "Embrace self-love, self-care, and skincare with this limited edition PUR XO Nabela Embrace Your Face Eye and Cheek Palette, made in collaboration with entrepreneur and creator Nabela Noor." Nabela. This palette combines velvety, soft powders and skin conditioning skincare ingredients like turmeric extract, pomegranate enzyme for buildable color and comfortable wear. Turmeric extract helps brighten the appearance of dull skin. Pomegranate enzyme aids in gentle skin exfoliation and reduces the appearance of excess oil. Okay, and then it has the directions in French as well. So let's rock out. But I was really delighted with, you know, the kind of like family and personal story, because, you know, some people are turned off by her being so funny, and some people are turned off by, you know, lead characters in that franchise that are Black. You know, in as much as there are people who love it, there are people who hate it. Let's be clear about that. And it, you know, it's troubling, but you know, this is how people are, right? So this is the L'Oreal Paris Magic Decrease Eyelid Primer. We're going to get this into our dish and then get it over our lids so that we can get down with this exotic palette, right? I'm sorry I haven't had time to get into my makeup lately. I've been, you know, trying to get my SAG days on and deal with, you know, some funny personalities at work. You know, it's so important as people of color just not to let people force you to step out of character, right? because in as much as those people might not be happy for you to be there, might not be happy if you do well at your job, right? That, you know, we've had some folks do things, like actively do things, you know, that they shouldn't, you know, whether it's, oh, look, you pulled a little condom off the mirror and then it goes from blurry to clear. Wow. Condoms. You gotta, like, you know, keep your game face. Do nothing, say nothing, and think about it in lieu of, you know, reacting to people who don't have your best interests at heart, because, you know, I don't have to talk about employment statistics. You already know. I don't have to talk about, you know, competition in the workplace. You already know. So, within this palette, I see the shade names on the back, but I'm not exactly sure what's what. Oh, okay, so the box has a little guide where the top corners are blush, right? That makes sense. The center 4 things are shadow, and the 2 bottom things are highlighters. So I guess we will. I'm kind of scared to use these as base shades, so let me just get into some other palette to lay down a transition shade. I have this e.l.f. palette, Mad for Matte, Summer Breeze. So you're getting 2 palettes in one. So let's just try this lightest shade and see what we can do, just to lay something down before we get into these this brown matte shade, and then these kind of, you know, jewel tone shimmers. So just taking this Morphe Jaclyn Hill JH33 brush at random, stroking it into this palest shade, and then just getting that, stamping that across the lid, right? Is it going to be too pale, too chalky? We're risking it all just to set the small amount of eyelid primer that we did lay down. You know, but I appreciate everyone sticking with me through my inconsistent posting and my, you know, troubling tales from the streets of Hollywood, because, you know, I do see my subscriber count. I do see people, you know, engaging with and commenting on my videos, and I appreciate all of that. And in the process, you know, in as much as, because of the global panini, we have to kind of serve ourselves when it comes to often our hair and makeup. I've actually gotten better than I was. I'm not saying I'm like an expert at this point by any means, but boy, oh boy, I should do a post kind of about my humble beginnings, my humble struggle makeup from, you know, yesteryear, because boy, oh boy, it is quite the, wow, it's quite the, I've come a long way, baby. That's all I'll say. I don't know. That's wild. But, you know, I definitely appreciate, you know, this time to indulge, kind of entertain myself with my nascent artistry. Does that make sense, Cooper? Just doing, you know, what I can. I'm not saying I'm like the best or a genius, but I'm definitely better than I was. Like, I was, wow. I'd have to think about just how terrible. This is a random, oh, this is a Morphe 321 brush. Yeah, no, Nisi's beautiful, but she's also quite petite. And it's sort of like, you know, there are professionals that work on her look. I think her hair is looking beautiful. I love her lip color. I love the makeup looks on this show. She was in like a houndstooth suit one day, and it was fire. You know, and I see the promos on Facebook, and I see, you know, her in the show, and that they've thought to make her, to dress her for her body type, right? And her, you know, sort of cleavage and boldness and beauty as a Black woman is, I find it quite revolutionary. But there are, you know, there are detractors, right? There are always people on set trying to hate on Black women in their, you know, kind of trying to kind of demean them in their moments of success and progress. If the show's not for you, it's not for you. But the kind of tone of the critiques, like, oh, she's too funny. Nobody tells, you know, other sort of charming and funny actors that they're too funny. You know, how many movies, all those buddy cop movies, or even, you know, Independence Day, like, people are comfortable with Black men being funny in the middle of drama. What is it? One of my favorite movies, Die Hard. He's very funny all throughout this, you know, death-defying hostage situation, and no one criticizes him for that. But, you know, they keep coming for her, and, you know, thankfully the ratings and the support of the entities that are making it are there. But, you know, you kind of just still see people's you know, haterade. But great. I love the fact that you watched independent of my urging, because it actually is a good show. And again, the challenge of conveying that much story and circumstance in a television hour, which is honestly 43 or 45 or 48 minutes, you know, it's kind of minus commercials, or, you know, the numbers when people watch it on Hulu or any of those other services. This is a very nice, Bengal is the name of the shade. It's a very, on my skin tone, it is a very nice, natural, outer corner, lift the eye. This seems like the color that contour should be. And I'm just blending it in a lengthy way on both sides. I think it came out better on this side. You know, I'm talking all while I'm doing my makeup. But I do enjoy both the Jeffree Star and the Jaclyn Hill, these kind of white, is this goat hair? These Morphe brushes that blend eyeshadow. Or I have more expensive brushes, but I've never encountered a brush that was a more effective blending tool than these texture, I believe it's natural hair brushes. Maybe Jaclyn Hill is less of a troubling person than Jeffree Star. I actually have another palette by her that maybe I'll either try today or tomorrow, but I think this is a very credible single. It's actually two eyeshadows, because I did start with this pale shade from e.l.f., but just putting this into the outer portion of the eye, this shadow is almost imperceptible. Now, you know what I looked like before, so you know there's shadow there, but in the world of natural looking makeup, I'm not mad at this at all. So I've used two different Morphe brushes. Does that make me a bad person? Then I'm grabbing the Creme Shop, our friends in Korea, kind of paddle brush, and then we'll get into some kind of shimmer. Now, we have Shanti, which is this gold, Chai, which is the brown shimmer, and then Asha, which is the pink. So let's rock with the pink, and then we can get into this pink Masala Sunset shade. But yeah, Cooper, are you wearing your Nickelodeon merch? Are you repping? You repping Nickelodeon today? Uh-oh, we put a lot on our brush. Danger Town. Just stamping that, ooh, in the inner third of the eye. That is much pinker than I thought it would be. And it's not as shimmery as I thought it would be. I don't dislike it, but it's just, yeah, you know why? Because I just put blush on my lid. I'm not paying attention. Am I tired? we're gonna have to blend it in and then put the same thing on the other side. Now, I wonder if there's any problem with putting blush on your lids, but I didn't mean to do that. I just was talking and thinking about Nickelodeon while I was doing this. So just a dot more of blush just to make it symmetrical. A mid-tone pink. It's a little bit brightening, but flipping this brush over, we're going to get into, should we do Asha? I guess we should, because that's what we intended to do. So Asha is this pink shadow shimmer, and kind of getting that on our brush, and then stamping that in the inner third like we intended to. All right, arcing that. All right, almost like the extension of a bird's wing. What? What did you say? I didn't see it. I was staring at my lids. What were you saying, Cooper? So more, just extend it further at the top than at the bottom, right? And other side. But I appreciate you for joining me here as I sit inside to avoid the rain. You know, I did put on primer, but if I go out, then my makeup will end up on the streets. Using our blending brush again, picking up a tiny bit of Bengal just to blend between our shimmer and our matte and our blush accidentally. Other side. It's kind of unexpected pink and brown, right? I could see that being part of a, what do you call it? An outfit look, wearing brown and pink. The only thing I can think of that I have that's brown is a kind of exercise, like 3 exercise coordinates. I wore one to set on Thursday. It was a gray kind of bra top, exercise pant, tiny jacket combo to hop around in a scene with like basketball players. One of my colleagues was like, "Ooh, you're wearing a super suit. You look like one of the Avengers." I took that as a high compliment because in as much as I do eat a lot, I try to work out so that there's some muscles underneath there. A blush brush. Where can we find one? But yeah, I'm liking this palette. I think this would be a good kind of basic travel palette that gets into some unexpected tones. It's not too blue or too purple, but they're very wearable and a little bit pretty without being too dark or too crazy. Yes, Cooper, I do have lashes, but I don't know what if lashes like this fit into my into my lifestyle. Blush brush, yes. Here's an angled brush. When I'm out in the streets, I'm amazed. I'm amazed about how much blush the makeup professionals at work put on me. I'm going to use the Mishti Rose color. That's a little bit more pink. And then B, I try to emulate the amount of real estate they take up with their blush technique, right? Really getting it on the brush. Is everything going to go wrong? Or is it okay? It looks okay. Right? Other side. I feel like Mishti Rose is more for me than Masala Sunset. It kind of pops a little bit more on my skin. And I'm such a kind of like, oh, I don't want it to be too much. But I feel like if it's not showing, then it's not doing anything, right? Going back to the Staten Island perspective on makeup, which is, baby, colors really show when you live on Staten Island. you know, I think people may know that look from like the Jersey Shore. Like they really get into their makeup looks. So getting this into our lid area just to create more color unity using the top edge of our blush brush. I think the glow is there. I think the color is there. The emphasis on the eye is there. Loving this palette, Nabela. Putting it back into its box. Thinking about the turmeric and the pomegranate. You know, she's cute. Look at her. You see her? I gotta look her up. I don't know her work per se, right? Getting that little sunburned look, right? That sunburned look that Cooper favors because it reminds him of the golf course. Yes, I know I need to change the battery in my mirror. What? What else did I get? I got this Morphe Sweet Tea Matte Lipstick and a couple of lip glosses that, where did I put them? I also got this mented, I've been wearing this at work a lot, and I have to say, people be watching you at work, because I started wearing, like, if you know Brooklyn, like black girl brown, almost black lipsticks when I'm not doing certain things. Like if I'm just playing something that's not a cop, I've been wearing these very dark, not pink, not red lipsticks, and it has started some of the other girls at work starting to try to get into that palette, and I'm like, oh, it's great, right? Sometimes I'll wear a color, you know, like royal blue. I wore just because my neighbor gave away this jumpsuit, and I was like, oh, it's clean, I'll wear it. And I basically wore it to lunch, and I just, strutted across the lunch area. I didn't think anything of it. I was surprised that it fit, but then within a week or two, other people started wearing the same color, like a very specific color. So, as many of us kind of get our feet wet with the whole notion of being an influencer, it's nice when you can see that you've inspired people, right? And I'm never going to be like, oh, well, I wore that, you can't wear it. It's like, that's silly. It's obviously something where, if I'm expanding your ideas about what you can get away with wearing at work, I think that's great. I want to, I want to encourage people to, broaden the set of choices that they feel like they can make. So, you don't have to wear the same old. I'm not saying, go out and get clothes or go through your closet if you're not inspired to do it. But, this is the job that we have to do every single day. So if we can kind of keep it interesting for ourselves, then I think that also works for camera. So I found a lip liner. This is my good old Iman Cocoa lip liner. I've been seeing online people talking about that lip liners have sharpeners in the bottom. This one has a sharpener on top, so I very much doubt that it has one on the bottom, but yeah, this one doesn't open on the bottom. Curious, because not all of them do, but apparently... Aw, Cooper, you're my friend. You are. I'll give you a call when I'm in the gym or something. But yeah, no, I definitely think about your very insightful perspectives that you've shared over the years. And, I'm on my weird little journey here in town. You get to hear about some of the mayhem here. And believe me, I'm making it a lot more, kind of telegenic than it is in real life, because I'll say it like this. I have, for years, had many colleagues that really need background checks. I don't know if it's a mental institution thing or if it's a actual criminal thing. If you've seen some of my posts on TikTok, you know, some of my actual colleagues have been involved in crimes and are under indictment and all of that. So if this is Iman Coco lip liner, right? You put those little hash marks in it to make your lips still look like lips, not like some overly smooth, lacking in dimension kind of lip. And then this is called Sweet Tea. Look at this. It's a very warm brown. But again, browns, Mac Whirl, these colors that aren't screaming pink and red, right? This isn't super pale, but it is a matte, right? So you want to kind of stroke that into your lip liner, right? Not to completely obliterate it. But get that on there so that you're emphasizing the lip, right? Creating balance with what you've done to your eyes. It's a little dry looking, but it's about the pigment, right? Sweet tea, not something that, you know, this isn't, it's not sorority girl makeup, right? You're a professional at work in the world of the story. So this is Nyx Butter Gloss in Madeline, right? Dot this over. Press lips together. You're not really getting the color payoff. This is a kind of pink, very delicious smelling gloss, but restoring moisture to the lips. There's a lot of luminosity, even though we powdered. This is very luminous. Now, if I had my hair down and the lights were low in the evening, this might be more of the look. I find this amount of luminosity, it does make the skin look moist. It seems distracting for camera for the kind of work that I do. So this foundation, 305N, I feel like the tone of it is nice. I feel like I'm warmer than neutral, but I don't feel like it really clashes with my skin tone. My hands are tan, don't ignore that, but I would use this. I would not be mad. 305N Luminous Foundation. Is this something to put on the high points of the face and then put a MAC face and body over it, or put a, you know, a more not a luminous foundation, not a matte foundation, but something that just looks a little less blingy on the face. I think it looks pretty, but I'm not sure that it's camera ready for the kind of work that I do. We do have this Mented Highbrow Precision Pencil. We also have other kinds of eyeliner. Here's an LA Colors eyeliner. Our eyes are looking a little bit naked. Let's see if we can pop something on there. Ooh. So this isn't liquid, it's an actual like crayon type deal. So let's see if we can get it into the lash line and maybe extend it a little bit. It is a little draggy, but you know, look, for $1 or $1.29, it's not a bad thing just to keep in your purse, especially if there's hot weather. I think it's going to be a little bit less draggy, but it's relatively cold in LA today because of the rain. You know, a tight line, a lash line hugging line, something that's a neutral kind of deep brown, right? Something to lift the eye and give the lashes more emphasis without necessarily being a mascara, because sometimes I think that mascara looks a bit overdone just for a regular day of makeup, right? And again, makeup is going to look like makeup on your skin, but that doesn't mean you have to go all out every time you're doing your makeup. You can sort of use different elements. Think about what you feel is vital. Like, yeah, a little more eye emphasis, just a little more, right? Extending the eye, not reworking the eye, but just giving a little bit more depth and darkness. Little tight line moment. I prefer to line my upper lids, not my lower ones. I'm fascinated by people doing reverse cat eye. Is that what it's called? But for me, a short wing that doesn't go up and all crazy is enough, right? It's kind of a cheat to make it look like my eyes are bigger. Like that one little flick might be a lash, right? We saw Marilyn Monroe have a lash, an eyeliner that mimicked a lash going up, and then a fainter one below it that looked like an eyelash shadow. I think those are very interesting ideas to think about in the context of your beauty routine, right? I have this Mented Brow You Know is the name of the shade. Eyebrow pencil. It's a light brown, right? I'm going to call you Coops. Let me just extend my brows so that they look more dramatic. I have kind of some brow baldness here. So a stroke or two just to take that little bald patch down a bit. Think about a couple of strokes where the high part of the arch is, right? And it's a continuous experiment, right? Little short strokes that might buy you some more brow real estate, right? Making things symmetrical, making the arch higher without being you don't want it to be a geometric point. I can remember being in like some of the Latina owned or Latina staffed stores here in LA and being really shocked at how geometrical sometimes brows can get, or brows got at that, certainly earlier periods of Instagram makeup were very outline the brow, and people I think who don't have a lot of brow hair end up with brows that are very geometrical, and it doesn't look realistic. But my one tip is don't get brow pencil that's as dark or darker than your brows, right? You want something that's going to emphasize, and it's almost like a shadow that can cheat you a little bit more and a little bit longer, right? And not be necessarily so perfect and glued down. But when you look at yourself from a distance, you just want the weight to balance in a way that you want. Enough brow, not a super dark, crazy brow. Enough shadow around the eye, enough liner. Lip emphasis without having to go crazy and dark. Are we wearing too much blush? Maybe, but we know it's gonna wear off. We're certainly gonna sweat it off in the gym. And just thinking about Black owned brands like Mented, thinking about what people say about brands like Morphe and whether they're, sort of good or friendly to the community. Thinking about colors that aren't necessarily so, just pink and red and all of that. I think at certain periods of time those were really the only options. But also being brave enough to say, do I really need lipstick? Maybe liner and gloss is enough. Hailey Bieber and all of the people of color, women of color who were doing brown liners, black liners, and glosses. There's a lot of really amazing creators who really go ham with the kind of gloss and dark liner combo on women of color's skin. Now, if I were going to work, I could mess with a fixing spray or finishing spray, but I'm not. I'm going to the gym. Is this enough, Cooper? On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this makeup? Does Cooper think I need to put on some more bronzer? I have a couple of shades of this L'Oreal palette, L'Oreal Paris Infallible Fresh Wear Bronzer. I have dark and I have deep dark. So maybe I'll try dark with our same brush, right? Is something missing, right? The way I look on the viewfinder is not the way I look in my mirror that needs new batteries, right? Some people say bronzer to warm up the face. Well, my face is already warm, so what am I trying to do, right? Am I kind of getting that into the hairline to shrink my face down, to give it more of a feminine tininess, right? As if my tiny face is peeking out of, right, that shape of 3. 1, 2, 3, right? Bronzer, as if I'm bronze from the sun, or are we calling it bronzer when it's really something that's supposed to shrink our face and kind of step on that blush, right? It's blush, we're blushing, right? It's a dark enough shade, right? It's not going to be some bright orange. It's not contour. But if we take it too far, right? I can remember the first time I got my makeup done by a, I would say, transgender woman. And she put really heavy cheekbone contour on me. And I'd never seen it. I had no knowledge of makeup. But I just knew when she was doing it, it looked like, ooh, what are you doing? But the result was more structure for my kind of round and rounded face, right? That dimension that it gives you just from kissing a little bit of depth right under that cheekbone. And sometimes, you know, for my comfort level, it can feel like going too far, but it makes you look interesting, right? Sometimes we can't get away with wearing quite this much makeup, but when we can, it's nice to have the practice so that we're not looking like, this is very nice product. I recommend as dark as you can stand it. If you want to start with the paler shades, that's fine, but just to, as the folks do, to give your face dimension and add interest, right? The brows are there, the lash line is there. We don't have to go too much farther with adding lashes and more product. We're good, right? If we just put on our Nickelodeon hoodie. Are we ready for the gym? Are we ready for our close-up? We've got daylight coming in here. We've got some artificial light over here. I don't dislike it. What do you think? I'm interested in your feedback. If you have any questions about the products that I used today, is this blush too luminous? Is it too pink? Is it too much on my nose? Who can say, right? Do we powder it down? What's nice about this bronzer is that it's not orange at all, which 9 times out of 10, I feel like bronzer is too orange. So if we take our egg-like sponge and just tap over it, if it's too much product, you can scale it down a bit, right? If it's too much shadow. People say blend, I say remove, right? If I didn't want to remove it, I would use a non-absorbent, non-damp sponge, right? But to kind of take it from that, ooh, am I wearing too much makeup? If I'm not sure, I can just tap over it. This has the effect of moistening a bit without laying down setting spray. If I'm not going to work, I don't really need to keep makeup on to that extent, but I really am happy with this. I guess it's an LA Colors Auto Eyeliner. I put it on and it did not drift. I'll tell you how it wears once I go to the gym, but I'm not wearing under eye concealer. Is that something I should add? Right, you see my under eye. Is it a thing where not wearing under eye concealer looks more real? Right? Here is this Liquid Camouflage High Coverage Concealer from Catrice. Right, this is exactly the moment where that dude on set thought he would try to neg me again. Oh, is that too much? You know, just trying to go in for the kill day after day after day. Like putting his lips on my ear was gonna like, what, make me fall all over him? Crazy. But people really aren't afraid of consequences, right? If a Harvey Weinstein is, you know, running toward court processes all of a sudden, why is that? You know, why the change from, you know, when allegedly he was getting international espionage people after his accusers? If they were so lying and so wrong or untrue, you know, did the house of cards really fall down, or did he just, you know, take steps to protect his assets and kind of use this whole set of accusations to shore up his ego so that people have to spend weeks in court and depositions talking about, you know, the unwanted, perhaps unpleasant adult happy fun time? You know, he maybe allegedly coerced people to experience with him and his allegedly odd or different anatomy. No disrespect to anyone who has that kind of difference, but it sounds like, if it's true, is it some sort of, you know, aspect of motivation for him to do these things? And, you know, what is it called, like when people show up to the scene of the crime because they want to ask questions of the cops and act like they're not involved, right? If he's still talking about he's falsely accused, he gets the allegedly delight of, you know, having to hear, you know, these people struggle with the aftermath of perhaps, you know, some, I'll say, not enjoyable things that he put them through. And think of the think of the potted plants. Is that sort of biological material good or bad for the plant? You know, these are all questions that occur to me. I don't know if they occur to any of you, but, you know, I certainly think I look better than I looked when this makeup process started. Is this concealer too pale? What does that mean? Is that a double entendre? Knowing when to stop. Well, I mean, I'm stopping now, you know. But I've developed quite the stash of cosmetics, and I don't wear nearly this much when I'm at work on a daily basis, but I feel like, you know, I feel like my technique has gotten better. What do you think? Think it's good or bad? It's turning down that light a bit. What's frustrating about some of these mirrors is they're battery operated and the batteries get killed right away. Right? Cooper, would you push me out of the compressor if I had this makeup look on? You know, but I invite everyone to, you know, celebrate your face, your hair, your skin tone, right? Put on your cold weather hoodie, brr, when it's cold. You know, think about being intentional about the colors that you select, you know, grabbing products that may be created by people of color so that your palette of colors is not just limited to ones that, you know, certain communities are more comfortable with, like pinks and purples and reds, whereas communities of color can get into like browns and corals and shimmers that are not just, you know, those color palettes, right? And what's exciting about like color palettes that are manufactured in different parts of the world, or creators that are from different parts of the world, it really does put on the black lipstick. Where is the black lipstick? All right, well, let me find that for you. It is here somewhere. You know, should I get into a Halloween look for you, Cooper? You know, and really do a whole throwdown that is centered around black lipstick? Is that something that you'd like to see? You know, just type, sorry, turning up more light. Just say, yes, make it scary. If that's something that you want to see, Cooper. But, you know, makeup is part of our armor, not only for feeling confident at work and on camera, but also, you know, having a certain level of self-assurance about the choices that we make for our beauty. We don't have to wear a pearly pink like it's, you know, 2002. We don't have to wear blue eyeshadow. We don't have to be limited by the choices that some of our other friends of different hues might make. But it's really pretty cool to see, you know, it's like playing follow the leader. When you do something and it looks cool or people like it, it's quite something to see people kind of take it on and try it themselves, right? They might not know the brands. They may be a little bit shy about having their liner as distinctive and kind of poppy as some of the girls of color, but it's all credible. And I think, you know, certainly in public environments where, you know, there's 100+ people looking at you, whether it's, you know, in a baseball field or in a firehouse or, you know, just on the Paramount lot or on the WB lot, it is, you know, part of your armor as an actor to master what it is that you want to look like. So I have a request for a black lipstick look. Cooper wants it. Cooper gets it. All right, I'm going to go to the gym. And if I don't do that look later tonight, I might do it in the morning. But I thank you all for joining me here on House of Tanya. I can't tell you how excited I am to have nearly 2,000 followers. I did feel really guilty for not, you know, sort of being able to take the time and energy to do a kind of like open-ended exploration of not only makeup, but then what's going on with me in the workplace. I'm looking bronzed. I'm looking like sweet tea. I'm looking like exotic palette from PUR Nabela that helps me embrace my face. I highly recommend this palette, as well as the little one from e.l.f. that we stole a transition shade from. You know, Mented is a brand that I am continuing to experiment with, not only their lip products, but now their brow products. What I like about it is that it looks credible. My brows are not this long. They're kind of filled in. It's kind of like using them to create some depth and shadow without being, you know, boxy, or you don't want people to have suspicion the second they see your brows. And I definitely see a lot of suspicious, waxy, you know, crayon brows where I feel like hair-like strokes and shadow is a better way, at least for me, to go. Still experimenting with the perfect inner corner flick and the perfect angle for the outer corner. I feel like I could go a little bit higher. But the eye is extended. The lips look luscious. And now we're going to get into a black lipstick for Cooper and his taste. So, in any case, this is Tanya, House of Tanya, signing off. It's time to have a beverage and get into the weightlifting. There's been a lot of donuts, fried Chinese food. What else did we eat this week? It was chicken parm and meatball sandwiches and anything you can put in your mouth to fight exhaustion, but it's all in pursuit of storytelling. So I invite you to give me your feedback. What do you think about the impact of male anatomy on their will to pursue things with women or men without their consent, or people in the workplace without their consent? Am I completely off base, or am I on to something? I'd love to know your opinion. And, you know, I apologize if I've offended any of you, but, you know, this is what's going on in these streets. You know, truth hurts, as they say. But I will see you on the next episode. And I encourage you to get glowy and try browns, you know? Browns and some products from creators of color, especially if you are a person of color. I think it's illuminating to see, you know, just what, you know, products that are created dark enough for people of color, you know, what they do on your face, and kind of learn if there are products that can kind of do you better than perhaps the things that you've been working with. All right, until next time. This is Tanya from House of Tanya. Brr! It's raining on a Saturday, and I will see you next time. Bye. Bye, Cooper.